Hey everyone, so here's my weekly trade recap on the trades that I took, one loss as well as missed. So hopefully you guys get some value out from this video. As usual, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section or just drop me a DM on IG and then I'll do my best to help you guys out. So let's get started. So this was my first trade taken on Monday. So it was a GJ Long idea, but I took a loss on it, as you can see over here. So how the idea came about was because overnight we saw that price actually made a gap here. So I was actually long bias on the GBP JPY, but I saw that this area here was actually holding the bias together with this area. So I saw support being formed here, and when I came to the charts around the London Open, it was at this timing. I noticed that this bullish candle rejected and created a higher low compared to this area, followed by this next higher low and new support being formed, also rejecting to this whole area where, to me, the buyers were actually holding the price up. The moment the trade closed with support formed, I placed a pending order, which only got triggered a lot later. However, the trade actually came back down and hit my stop loss before later on it eventually went up again to hit my TP level over here. So this, I've noticed the London manipulation happening quite often to do a liquidity grab before actually holding the previous bias area, as I've noted over here, where we see support being created and also support holding after the price get up over the weekend. So I don't think that I was wrong on the idea, just a bit early. So I also missed the re-entry over here because as this candle made a flip bullish, I was actually distracted. Then I missed the entry. So by the time I saw it, the candle was already halfway around here and I didn't want to chase the trade. I could have gotten another re-entry around this wick low near the support, but again, I felt like since I already missed the trade here, I didn't really want to chase it. But overall, I think I should have trusted the analysis and that this whole area here was a viable area to make my buys since the price was actually holding and rejected above the buyer's area. This was the trade idea on Monday. So overall, I only took this one GJ loss, and because I missed this and GJ actually continued to range throughout the New York session, I decided not to force a trade after that and come back the next day. So on Tuesday, the 23rd of February, I identified that in Asia, the buyers were actually holding the price up, and then as well as we were also bullish on the higher time frame again. So when this London session came, I saw that price was actually holding this level of support. So I saw price coming down. I wanted to see if this level of support will hold. So when this candle actually closed bullish with a rejection candle, I should have entered when this candle flipped, but again, I was a bit distracted at this entry. I've been a bit careless this week, Monday and Tuesday. So when this thing made a lower wick, flipped bullish and held the support, I should have entered my trade like this with my stop loss below this wick low, as anything below that would be would invalidate my long idea, and this trade then moved easily for almost 10R. This was a careless mistake on my end and it could have been easily avoided, but it's quite an easy textbook entry for me. So this was my trade on Wednesday, the 24th of February. I saw that price was bullish overall and then I was waiting for some kind of retest to continue higher. So I watched near the London Open, which was my time of trading. I saw that price was actually breaking the resistance over here. So I waited for the retest and then I entered with my stop loss below this structure. So this trade ended up going for 2R before I closed 50% and then I locked my stop loss at break even and then it got stopped up somewhere around this area. So overall I netted about 1% on this trade, which I think is quite good considering the fact that in Asia price moved already 160 pips. So that was, at least there were some profits. So also on the same day, on the 24th, I saw that there was an entry on go of the 4-hour chart. So I saw that this was the 4-hour zone which I had previously rejected overnight. So when I saw that the sellers were actually holding this area and there was this second rejection to the same area on the break and retest, I took an entry short when the 4-hour flipped bearish with my stop loss above and I managed to secure 50% at 2R again before the price came back up to stop me in profits at 1R. So the next thing, a continuation idea of this trade appeared on the next day for my re-entry here. Over here, this was the original area where I got stopped out at 1R, and it formed another new 4-hour resistance of this previous support on the 4-hour chart. So I took my entry when this candle was moving up, as I knew that I could enter anywhere within this candle with my stop loss above this resistance, as anything above means that the shorts are not valid anymore. So I then took the same thing, 50% at 2R, and locked my stop loss at BE. But at this area here, I felt a bit anxious at this previous level of 4-hour support because it was also near my daily support. So when I saw that price actually closed with a rejection bullish candle, I cut the rest of my trade. So overall, I gained about 1.19% on this trade, risking about 0.5. So it was an overnight swing. The bulk of the trade was actually left alone, which I think helped me to stay in a bit longer on this trade itself. So on the same day, on Thursday the 25th, I took a GJ long trade. We see that on the 15-minute, this green area was previous support that was held. So when this support formed, then this bullish candle confirmed the entry. I waited for, because this stop loss was too big, I waited for a break and retest to this area. This bearish candle, I waited to see if support would form, and it did, respecting this previous resistance. So I took my entry when the lower wick formed and flipped bullish. This was my confirmation, and then I took the stop loss below this level of structure. And then once price actually moved 2R, again, same thing. I secured 50% and locked my stop loss at BE. I accidentally closed my runner because I was checking something out on my MetaTrader 5, and I accidentally closed the runner. But on hindsight, seeing how this bearish candle actually closed with a rejection wick to the upside, price after that, if we look at the chart on the 25th, price actually did a rejection over at this area here, and then it came back down to my entry. So I think me accidentally closing the trade was actually a blessing, because after that, over on this area, there was actually another potential for longs. So the re-entry on the long trades were taken after this bullish candle closed, confirming that this support was holding. So I took the entry over here, and then I put my stop loss below this wick, and I just eyeballed it. Usually I'll put it for, if this is a 14 pip stop loss, I'll put it 16 pips away, which most likely would not get hit. But in this case, because I eyeballed the stop loss, I just roughly put it somewhere, and the stop loss got pinned, and then it went up to my original TP area, which was there. So this was a bit careless on my end. I should have measured the stop loss a bit more properly, but it is what it is. So I took a small loss on this, and luckily, because I was already up for the day from the gold and the previous GJ trade, I decided to just go half risk on this, so I didn't lose as much, right? So to catch the shorts, I saw that this massive drop, the origination of the move was actually at the top here. So it formed a double top, and also it had those bearish rejections. So this was the first signal. Second signal, the straight short could have been taken like this, with my stop loss above the wicks for 2 pips, so 17, and then take it down to this level of support. But the thing was, I was only confident of taking shots to this area, plus I had already taken 3 trades for the day, so that's why I avoided this third trade. But in this case, this would have been the valid analysis shot for this monster move that fell overnight for about 180 pips. So that was how I could have caught it if I didn't take 3 trades already, because I didn't want to break my rules. So finally on Friday, so this was my trade today on the 26th of February, Friday. So overall, we saw that price actually made a very big pullback based on the higher time frame. So if we look at the daily, price actually did a pullback, close bearish, and then but the overall trend is still bullish because it did not break its previous low, so I still stayed bullish. So I waited on the 15-minute during London. It didn't have any moves because it just kept falling, and there wasn't any proper trade that I could take. Plus, I didn't want to chase the longs down to this area of support as I had a 4-hour zone sitting over here. So I was already waiting around this green area for buys in line with the higher time frame trend. So when this candle actually closed bullish like this, I wanted to take an entry, but the thing was on this candle, the stop loss was very big. It was like almost 40 pips. So that's against my rules on the 15-minute time frame. So I didn't take this long trade, and instead I waited for some kind of retest to happen, break retest around this area to happen. So when I first saw this candle forming support, this was again too big for me to take an entry, but it was a second confirmation that the buyers were actually holding the bottom area and keeping the price up. So when this next second candle made the confirmation for buys, forming also a higher low, forming a higher support, I noticed that this candle again was 30 pips. So I wanted to enter somewhere. I knew I wanted to enter somewhere within the candle itself because I knew that for my stop loss and trade to be invalid, if price breaks below this, I don't want the trade. So I was willing to enter anywhere below within this candle area with my stop loss below here. So I was trying to look for structure, which I didn't really get on the 5 minute. So I was trying to test this idea. I then saw on the 1 minute that at my zone, this green area over here, as price was coming down, I noticed that it closed above this buy area. So this buy area was confirmed by this bullish movement over here as well. And then I saw support forming. And finally, when this candle closed like this, confirming that the support was holding with that rejection wick, I took my entry long with my stop loss below this green area, which was also below this previous level of support. So that's how I took the trade up. So when it hit 2R, 1R and 2R over here, I secured 50% of my trade and let the rest go. So when it finally went to 4R, I trailed it to 2, and 5, I trailed it to 3R. My runner finally got hit over at this area at 3R. So overall, this trade, I only entered with 1% risk, half of my normal size, because it was a Friday and I was already up for the month. I didn't really want to risk too much on my profits, but I managed to net about 2% on this trade. So I thought it was quite a good, quick trade during the New York session. So this was the last trade that I took for the month. It still continued to move up further, but it is what it is because that was how I managed my trade. And then, but at least the idea overall is correct. So I don't really feel any FOMO or whatsoever. But it feels nice that the analysis was right and that trade in the end moved in my favor. So I hope everyone had a good February trading month and ended the month profitable. If not, doesn't matter. It's still early in the year. Don't overtrade. And then I'll see you guys on Monday for the new month of March.